what you do about why you voted for Trump in 2016.
Hi, my name is Tony Esposito. I'm a regional sales manager for Nollywood Barbecue Company. I was a staunch Democrat until 2016, and just got fed up with the Democratic Party and decided that it was time for a change, and we would change it. We were fighting for him. We would fight for Trump since the day he was elected president.
And what was it that frustrated you about Democrats?
It was just the fact that I think that most people in this area only voted Democrat because of the fact that their mother, their father, their grandfathers did, and it created an environment where nothing was getting done. And after 50 years of voting for the Democratic Party, we finally flipped this down to red. Unfortunately, Tim Ryan didn't go with the blue side, but there's the next time for him.
And tell me what you liked about Trump. This clearly wasn't just an I don't like Hillary vote.
Oh no,
I don't like Democrats.
It was not. Trump, and I've said this for a long time. We talked about it with many of our friends. But the fact that we always said that if we ever had a person that talked just like us, and they ran for president or ran for an office, we would vote for that person. And that's what Trump is. Trump is we feel, I know a lot of people don't feel that way, but we feel that Trump is an honest person. He has integrity, and he does what he says he's going to do. And for me personally, he's proved it in the 3.5 years that he's been in office.
And you say an honest person, you know that there's been all kinds of fact checking.
Absolutely.
You just don't believe in fact checking.
Well, who's saying it's fact? That's the problem. I mean, if I'm not going to listen to the guy that owns Facebook or that owns Twitter. I mean, I think that if someone's going to fact check it, then we need to fact check all sides of the story, not just one or two parts of the story.
Okay, let's go to. I hear a lot, and we've traveled around a lot and talked to a lot of voters from both sides, all sides. And the one thing I think that echoes all the time is he says it like it is. What does he say that they weren't saying before? What is it he says? What is it that resonates with you?
I think the fact that he is able to make non-political people understand what he's talking about. And I don't know if I can explain that to you, but he's almost like your dad or your uncle talking to you in that type of language that most people understand.
Does he, in some way, has he reached out to you in ways that others don't? I mean, did you feel left behind?
Absolutely, I did. That's why I made the switch in 2016. And I'm just talking about this valley, because I don't know the whole United States, but in this valley, we've been lied to since the day I was born. And then before that, we had traffic in here, and you guys all know his story. So I mean, he wasn't a very good individual. But the funny thing about it, he did talk just like us, but he was a crook, and he took this valley down. Tim Ryan hasn't done a thing in 16 years for us that we feel. He's a 16-year congressman and is on one committee, appropriations, I think. It's hard to explain his allure, but obviously 70 million people think he's a weird guy. He wants to be black.
Can you explain what the lure is?
Well, a lot of things for me. First and foremost, he has a national appeal. He embodies, as close as I've ever seen in a national politician, the maxim that charity begins at home. I reciprocate, and I echo the sentiments of Arthur M. Schlesinger Jr., and I'm paraphrasing when I say that when he held the executive branch of our tripartite government is best equipped or best structured to protect our government's construct from its tendency inherent toward inertia and skeletons. And that's one of the many things I like about President Trump. He brings that activist culture to the table in a way that, being a man of independent means he's certainly immune from the inducements or the dictates of special interest groups, runaway judicial activists, the Justice Brandeis types, and of course the secret cabals of influence that are far beyond the powers of the corridors of power in Washington.
What do you do for a living? I should have asked you that.
Well, I'm a senior at Grand Canyon University, and I do everything from soup to nuts. I worked in telecommunications. I've done talk radio. You name it, I've played pretty much.
And tell me, G, what you think Donald Trump's appeal is.
Well, my own story, I also changed parties in 2016. I have been looking for a candidate. I mean, I was looking at Ted Cruz. I wanted somebody from the outside. Because like Tony said, we've been getting the same candidates for years and come here and make the same promises. I started working with a company in 1993. We serviced heavy industry, steel mills, power plants, and any kind of business and industry. And I saw what NAFTA was doing. NAFTA was taking our jobs away. It took our steel jobs away. In 1977, we lost all our mills, a great majority of them. That was a blow. That was a gut punch. Well, NAFTA, and what happened since NAFTA was a slow bleed. It was the death of 1,000 cuts. And every 2 years and every 4 years, a politician would come around and say, "Hey, we know how we can fix that. Just get me back in power. We're going to take care of that. Oh, we're going to work for you. We're going to fight for you, because you're our bread and butter. You're our people." And then they never did anything. So Trump comes along, and he says, "You know what? I'm not a politician, but I know how to fix this." And when I seen him coming down the escalator, I thought, "What the heck is he doing?" You know? I never watched his program. Never knew who Donald Trump was. Just his persona, who he was. I said, "Well, he's got to be crazy. He's running for president." Then I started listening to him. And what I think Trump's appeal is, he didn't live his life as a politician working his way up, taking the steps he had to take and talking the way he had to talk to get somewhere. He was a businessman. I worked for businessmen, very successful. You know, you work for a guy, and if you're not producing, we'll get somebody else, but that, we have to keep the business going. I said, "Well, this guy, we got to give him a chance. We got to let him see what he can do." And he has been fighting for the American worker. There's a billionaire businessman. He was working for all of us and didn't charge us a dime. I mean, he turned back his pay. And for what he went through, he kept fighting for us. That's why I'll never turn my back on Donald Trump. There's nobody that's going to be able to put himself out like he. What is wrong with America first? Why doesn't the media go along with America first? What's wrong with putting American worker first? Joe Biden's certainly not going to do it. Certainly not going to do it.
What was it about Biden, Obama that you didn't like?
Well, the whole thing. I mean, Obama's saying, again, we worked for a lot of steel companies, a lot of manufacturing companies, and I watched them go away, and I said, how the hell could they build a coil of steel in China, put it on a boat, bring it here, and sell it cheaper than we could do it? There has to be something there. And Obama says, well, these jobs are gone, they're never coming back. Even John McCain stood outside of our building next door, and he said, well, yeah, these places are going to close, we got to find something else we're going to have to do, Trump says there's no reason why these jobs have to go away. We're in lousy trade deals. We have lousy, we need tariffs because they're tariffing the hell out of us. This is how we make the playing field level. And he said the American worker is the best in the world. We'll make a level playing field. They can beat anybody. We can compete with anybody in the world. Nobody's better than us. Hell, we invented half of this stuff.
You brought up John McCain, and so I want to ask you guys. When he talked about John McCain, and he said that himself, that's not a story in any media. You heard him say what he said about John McCain. Does none of that bother you?
No, because I tell you why it doesn't bother me. Because if somebody talked in front of him about me and my family, he would stick up and say, hey, that guy was wrong for what he said. John McCain called right before Trump said it, he doesn't like heroes that were captured. Right before that, McCain berated and called Trump's people a bunch of whatever. It was very disparaging to his thing. So Trump stood up for his friends, and I'd expect him to do that for me, and I would do that for him. Trump was sticking up for the people that stick up for him. So that was all media driven. I have to tell you, he left out the whole part where McCain said what he said, and that happened a lot these last 4 years.
So there's just this back and forth. You call somebody a name, you call somebody a name. Where does that end?
Not back and forth, but I know I got a guy in my corner. He's going to always be in my corner. It's not about just arguing. He has my back and I have his. How could you not want that in the presidency?
Okay, let's talk about the election. Did you think, and you think Donald Trump is wrong?
Absolutely. I mean, first off, Biden's campaign had zero enthusiasm. I mean, I understand why he did the circle things. I understand why he did what he did. I mean, first of all, he couldn't draw a crowd, so he built circles around it so that you could social distance, and then he didn't have to have a crowd. For me to believe that Joe Biden got 78 million votes, got the most votes of any president ever in the history of voting, I find that very hard to believe. Very hard. He had no enthusiasm. Trump, everywhere he went, there was 15, 20,000 people. We've had rallies. We've been doing rallies in this county since what?
Very
June?
good county.
Yeah, since June, every weekend. And we've had anywhere from, we've never had less than 100, 200 people at our rallies. And we've had the biggest rallies. I had a boat rally on Berlin Lake. We thought we were gonna have what, 40 boats? We had 280 boats show up in a little lake in Mahoney County.
So what do you think happened? Point to me, tell me what you think happened if you think Donald
I know
Trump
you want me to
is-
tell you that I think it's a conspiracy theory, but
I know, I want you to tell me
I
what you
don't,
think.
I don't believe it's a conspiracy theory. What I believe is that there's a recipe for disaster when they decided to have these million votes. There's no way, I don't think there's any way of proving the person that mailed that in is the person that actually did it. And that's just my theory. How can Trump go, I think he was winning Pennsylvania only 650,000 votes. I could be wrong on that, but I thought it was a large number. And 2 days later, he's losing. And the other thing I've heard on actually mainstream media was the fact that out of the 1 million votes they found on a ballot, not one vote was for Trump. I find that statistically unbelievable and hard to believe that can even happen.
So, they have called the secretaries of state or representatives of secretaries of state in every single state, and none of them say they've seen any widespread. I mean, explain to me, and I know you say it's not a conspiracy, so how do you think this happened?
That's the $100 question, right? I mean, how did this happen? I mean, in my heart of hearts, I just can't believe the fact that a guy that had so many people behind him, so enthusiastic, such enthusiasm across the whole United States, could lose this election. I mean, it's incredible for me. I just don't understand it.
What do you think happened?
Well, I'd really like to do it. They gave Al Gore 37 days. Okay. I'd like to see the media, yourself, your colleagues in the media, not poo-poo everything aside every time Trump says something. There's actual human beings, Americans, that signed affidavits under penalty of perjury saying this has happened here, this happened here. There's hundreds of those. We had, as Trump supporters, we had to watch Adam Schiff come out every night on your air, and nobody said there's no proof of this, saying we have evidence Donald Trump colluded with the Russians to win this election. We had to watch that every day for 3 years. That's why there's 70 million people that will never believe this election happened the way it did. There's, I would.
Let me ask you about Florida. People will always bring up Florida. That was 537 votes in one state. Do you want me to read you the numbers now for the states that are still outstanding? I mean, they're all well over 10,000 in each state, some 45,000 in each state. So I guess, same question, and I'm going to ask you too. If you think Donald Trump won, how did this happen? If all those secretaries of states or representatives of those states say they've seen no evidence of this.
How does the governor of Pennsylvania change election law? How does he do that? He can't do that, but he did that. So how did that happen? How did it happen that the legislature is the one that sets the election and the election law? The election was supposed to be over by 8 p.m.
Wisconsin, Minnesota,
Okay,
Michigan,
Ohio, look at Ohio.
Arizona.
Talk to the Secretary of State in Ohio. Ohio is very good with their books. They cleaned up their books. In fact, there was a group of Democrats that sued Ohio a few years back because they were purging. If you hadn't voted in like 5 years in any election, they purged you from the rolls. You had to re-register, and and they went crazy. Says, how could you do that? You're disenfranchising people. They says, no, we're cleaning our books. Why? That doesn't happen everywhere. It doesn't.
What do you think happened? And you look at the numbers in these numerous states, and you look at what secretaries of state have said. They have seen no evidence of massive fraud. Yes, there's been individual things people have found, but how did this happen?
From my vantage point, there's too many smoke and mirrors, too much smoke and mirrors in terms of ballots appearing here, reappearing there, disappearing here, this, that, and the third. Where there's smoke, there's fire. When we deal with globalists and liberalism, we're dealing with a system that's not bound by conventional moral strictures. And to sum it up in a nutshell, I put absolutely nothing past them. Nothing past them. That's how I deduce that. That's how I arrive at the fact that, coupled with, the mass appeal that President Trump had, the the mass appeal passed to the people, and how pretty much there's so much idiocy that goes on in the liberal way, but the more radical faction of the Democratic Party, it turns a lot of people off. There's no way. It just doesn't smell like too many irregularities.
It's hard for us as Trump supporters, let me just say it. It's hard for us as Trump supporters to understand that Joe Biden, who never got past the first round of any primary, could garner more votes than anybody did in history with the campaign he ran. I'm a precinct committee person. There's about 14 Republicans in my precinct because I live in the city, it's very Democratic. I have to campaign to get those 14 votes. There's no way Joe Biden, with his record of nothing for 47 years, stays in his basement, allows the press to run, I'll say it, run cover for him and run his campaign while he stayed in his basement, and he wins and it's legitimate. No, it's never going to be accepted. It's never going to be accepted.
So I take it you agree with Donald Trump that he should not concede?
I don't think he should concede until he's actually exhausted every possible means of making sure he got the right vote that he's.
What about if the electors come out, count, and say he is the certified candidate, still not accepted?
I will never accept Joe Biden as president. I mean, if that's your question, that's my answer. I just don't believe that he's right for our country. I think that the first chance I get, come December, I'm gonna take all my money out of my 401ks and put it in. I mean, I'm leaving my 401ks, but I'm gonna transfer it into cash. I am so worried that he's gonna complete everything that we've gained in the last 4 years.
And we can't rule out the reality or the possibility that many members of the electorate might be subject to the inducements of deep state. Those cabals that I spoke of earlier. That and popular opinion or the globalist or liberal narrative. I've just lost confidence in what I've seen.
So what happens now? Whether or not President Trump says, okay, I concede, he's going to be the president-elect after exhausting what he wants to do legally, but he says it's an unfair election or it was stolen. What happens to the fervent Trump supporters like you? What are you willing to do?
Well, Martha, we're not going away. But I'll tell you this. I'll tell you what didn't happen. Cities didn't burn. Policemen weren't assaulted. Right? I mean, they didn't board up the cities for nothing. That's because Republicans don't do stuff like that. And the people knew that. That's what didn't happen. And what also is not going to happen is the enthusiasm that President Trump has built is not going to go away.
Well, you have had some Trump supporters in confrontations over the months. So what happens now? Would you support massive rallies? Would you support
Absolutely
taking up
massive rallies.
arms?
Absolutely. No. Taking up arms? I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening, not with the Republicans. I mean, the bottom line is you do what you have to do. No, I'm not saying that. I'm also saying I can't see a bunch of Republicans going smashing out the windows at a Best Buy and going out through the doors with the TV without stopping at the register and paying for them. That's not how we act. See, and the media would be great to say that. Say, you know, one time I'd love to hear somebody could use this or not. But I'd love to hear them say, well, you know what? If the Democrats would have won, I think that's why they had planned. Or if the Democrats had lost, that's why the board, everything was boarded up because of what would happen. But you'll never say that, Martha. You'll never say that. You'll never do it.
So tell me what you think will happen. Will the country heal, or you guys think the country will not heal?
The country's not going to heal because
it's
of the
going
fact
to be 50-50.
that, you know, Trump, he had 64 million votes in 2016.
7 years.
They wouldn't let us have 4 years apiece. I mean, we were ridiculed. He was ridiculed. I mean, I think the country's going to be worse off as far as healing. It's not going to heal. There's no possible way that Trump supporters are going to go away. It's just not going to happen.
Do you know any Biden supporters? Do you have neighbors? Do you have anybody in this family?
I will tell you that my family doesn't. My people in my family that are Biden supporters, we haven't talked in 6 months.
And is there any way you'd reach out to them?
Absolutely. I mean, it's family, but I'm not going to reach out to anyone outside of family. I'll tell you that right now.
So you sort of see the other side as the enemy?
Well, Martha, I'll put it this way. A few months before his fateful duel with political opposition can never absolve gentlemen from the necessity of maintaining rigid adherence to the laws of honor and the rules of decorum. End of quote. Now I say that to say this. It's one thing to be on the opposite spectrum from me. It's one thing for us to agree to disagree. But if I'm able to provide facts and stats that will expose certain holes in your narrative or your belief system, and you come up with vitriolic attacks and stonewalling and deflection and all kind of just hostile stuff, I wouldn't deal with that. I'll be 50 years older than 20. I don't have to deal with that kind of challenges. You want to be visceral and challenge about it? Okay, I'll be with you. So certain chasms will likely never get over.
So how do you go forward? Did you listen to Joe Biden at all the other night or
No.
No.
just won't? You will not
I
budge.
won't.
You are not gonna.
First off, I don't think he's gonna last for 4 years. And the alternative of Kamala Harris being president of the United States scares me more than Joe Biden being president.
What will you do? You've had these rallies. You've had these huge rallies for the president. How do you take that energy you had? What do you do with it? Where does that go?
Well, we have to ask that
Flip
question.
Mahoney County Red.
We're gonna flip. We did flip Mahoney County Red. It took 50 years, but because of our due diligence and getting the word out, we did do something like that. Kind of like I said, we didn't get rid of the main culprit that we're trying to get rid of. But in the end, we're not going away. We're gonna keep fighting for what we think is right for this country.
That's right.
And it's worth it. I mean, we're patriots. We're not we're American patriots. We don't see the other side as being equal. First off, when they were doing their presidential primaries, I never once seen an American flag on the stage. Not once. What do they say? What does the flag poison to them? I mean, that's when Trump supporters feel. We think that they're un-American.
Are you guys, any of you guys veterans?
Right?
You served when?
Marine Corps, in 1981 to 84.
I want to talk a little bit about COVID. Do you know anyone who's had COVID?
I just had a cousin that died.
A neighbor, well, she's kind of like a sister to me. Her husband passed away about 5 or 6 months ago from COVID-related maladies.
And yet, no masks. You're still shaking hands.
Right.
99% survival rate, well over 95%.
But there are also health issues if you get it. It may, thankfully, the survival rate is high, but there are also lingering health issues. CDC just today said again that masks not only help protect others, but protect you.
Martha, what is a mask? Now, I work in industry where everything's ocean related, workman's comp, ocean. What's the standard on a mask? There is no standard. There's no standard.
Okay, the standards on the mask. The CDC, do you just not believe the CDC at all? You just, when you hear the doctor say, these can help, you're just, I'm not wearing it
You know what
because of
happened?
what?
Do you ever watch the statistics for car accidents? Car accidents, people are killed in car and maimed horribly. If we would just drive 5 miles an hour, we could lower that. We could make that, eliminate that. Life is, things happen in life. I don't believe that people
Do you wear a
stop dying.
seatbelt?
Yes,
How
I
many
do. I drive a
seatbelts
truck,
have
yes.
killed people in car crashes?
But I do. I wear a
Not nearly
seatbelt.
as many as people have died. Not nearly as many.
Why
Not
are,
even close.
Martha, why are masks a rallying cry against Trump supporters?
They are. It is. Absolutely.
Why
Because
are
that's
they,
why you asked us.
why are they politically divisive? I'm not talking about politics.
because
I'm
they're
talking
boys.
about the CDC.
Okay. Well, Fauci came out first and said, "Don't wear a mask. It's not going to help you." That's what he did. See, Martha, this
He
is the
came
thing.
out. He came out and said, "Don't wear a mask because they didn't have enough for
Oh,
healthcare
we're gonna-
workers."
My wife works in an all-tac. She has seen COVID patients since January. She never had a problem getting a mask. She never had a problem getting PPE. They never had problems needing.
They had problems someplace. Okay, let's go back to the. I'm talking CDC. Do you see this as a political issue?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you not wear a mask because Donald Trump?
No, absolutely not. No, because that's I just don't believe it. I can listen to everything. I'm safe. I'll be safe, but I don't believe the risk is so reduced with wearing a mask that they're going to tell me I have to wear it. And I can tell you stories of I've been to a lot of political places, a lot of political dinners, with politicians on both sides, and I can tell you, it's all for show, Martha. They wear their mask in front of the cameras and they take their mask off. And I'm not talking about Republicans only, I'm talking about people
You've
who
heard
insist
people like
you
Chris
wear it.
Christie who got COVID at the probably at the White House event, say he was double vaxxed, he shouldn't get hurt.
Well, the problem is, people that have, underlying conditions should wear masks. We're healthy. I mean, I'm a healthy individual. Chris Christie, he's overweight. He probably has some diabetes problems, diabetes Crohn's, and he should have been wearing a mask forever.
But it's also the other people who give it to you. That's the point of the mask as well.
Well,
My sister's a respiratory, actually works with his wife. She wears N95 mask, a paper mask, and a shield to protect herself. If you really want to protect yourself, what they're not telling you is you have to wear an N95, a paper mask, and then a shield. And then the mask means something. So until they tell me I have to do that, which I'm never going to do because they know nobody will ever do it, don't tell me I have to wear a mask.
so, if Biden comes out and puts a mask mandate, is he going to tell us what kind of mask to wear? I mean, I see people on TV, NFL announcers, they got these fancy masks, you can see their mouth right through it. What's that doing for?
Same thing with him.
Same thing with me. I mean, can the masks really defend a micro weaving of the fiber? I have a doubt. I really doubt.
Do you guys just not believe the scientists on this?
No, I believe COVID is real. And COVID is absolutely right. Like I said, I just lost my cousin. But he had underlying conditions. But the fact is, I can't see, like Trump said, and I know you're going to say, well, that's his rallying cry. I never thought that the disease was worth all the precautions and everything that went down as far as shutting down the country, shutting down the economy. It didn't make sense to me because the death rate was so low. I mean, the flu's death rate is higher in some areas than COVID is across the United States.
If Joe Biden is inaugurated on January 20th, what do you think the country will look like in 4 years?
Nowhere near as well off as it is now. You don't have bustling industry. You're not going to find people, millennials, boomers, Gen Xers, or anybody else for that matter, as enthusiastic or as excited about going to work and possibilities for the future in industry and commerce. You're not going to have that sense of fellowship and camaraderie, no matter how conducive a work environment would be, for these qualities to exude themselves. With that kind of socialist, globalist mentality in charge in Washington, it's not going to be as robust. It's not going to be
You
as
see,
flavorful.
Joe Biden's a socialist?
Joe Biden, bless his heart. I guess I shouldn't put it that way. Biden is to the point now where he can be very easily controlled by people, by special interest groups, runaway judicial activists, other people who want to push radical agendas through him, running under his nose, and he no longer has the faculties and the power to really regulate anything. He's beyond that point. I'll just put it that way.
So, if you think of the last 4 years of Donald Trump, controversy, scandals that were made up, none of them were made true. Now, we have a president that his son, the FBI has his laptop. Okay, that's not made up. They do have his laptop. He has been compromised by China. Are we going to spend the next 4 years in court, Biden being in court and being impeached, trying to be impeached by the Congress? That's not going to happen. All right. The second thing is, at the end of these 4 years, the stock market's almost at 30,000 as of yesterday. I'm saying it'll be back to 18 to 15,000. That's what's going to happen. It's going to create those jobs. He says he's not going to stop fracking. That's going to be number one on his list. Ohio's a fracking state. So is Pennsylvania. You got Wisconsin is. I mean, there's a lot of jobs in there.
Let me give you the last word. And again, I want to just look at the country for the next 4 years and the 70 million who voted for Donald Trump and the 70 whatever million who voted for Joe Biden. Do you worry at all about a civil war or real conflict between these two sides?
No, because most of the opposition wears pink when they go out and riot, so no, I don't think so. No, I'm just kidding. I have no worry. I don't think, because Republicans are more responsible, I don't see us. I mean, I don't see us going out in the streets. I worry about our policemen. I worry about our law
You've seen some of
enforcement.
it. You've seen there's certainly been trouble on.
You know what I heard? You know what I heard when Donald Trump first started having his rallies? Number one, I heard, oh, he brings all those people there. The same people go to all his rallies. That's not organic. No, and that was all BS. We found that out. I heard that they're all out starting trouble. I've been to Trump rallies, Martha. It is a love fest. There's no alcohol. It's like a football game without the alcohol.
Plus
There's
we clean
none of
up
that.
after- we
There's
clean
none
up
of that.
after, too.
Absolutely. There's no garbage stuff behind it. That's not who we are. We're not going to do that. Eventually, what I think is going to happen is they're going to have to appease all these liberals that they promised everything to. And it's not going to be long before we're out of money because people like me are going to quit working, or we're not going to have jobs to support it. And then I don't know what's going to happen in the country. I just hope we don't slide too far down the rabbit hole not to be able to climb back out. But I know this. Joe Biden's not going to put America first with China. And Joe Biden's not going to put America first with the world, the trade deals. You know, I mean, is Joe Biden going to make the peace deals in Israel the way Donald Trump did? I mean, the guy got nominated for 3 Nobel Peace Prizes. Is he going to fight for the veterans like the Veterans' Choice that Donald Trump gave? That everybody said they needed, but nobody could do it. Nobody could do that. He said, we could do that. The right to try. The medicine's the right to try. Is that going to go away? Is Biden going to get rid of that? I met a little kid who had Duchenne's muscular dystrophy or whatever, and whatever it was, the medicine, he couldn't get it. Pence did it first. Pence passed it in Indiana, and then Trump passed it. Where this kid is thriving now because it was something experimental, but he couldn't try it. They said you have a right to try. Why not? Okay, all that goes away. We're going to lose all that. We're going to lose with the prison as far as guys in prison forever. Trump was letting them out, giving them a path to get out of prison. We're going to lose that. I mean, Martha, there's too much people don't realize they gave away with that election because I read this online. I'm not taking credit for it.
Gino,
But they said, don't.
I'm so sorry, your mic just stopped.
He's gonna
I'm so sorry about that.
I'm sorry.
No, you're
No, that's on us.
It happens.
Maybe the
Battery probably dead, so I'm talking
Oh,
to
geez.
him.
That's why we got you
Never
If
been-
I'd have brought my wife, I wouldn't have got a word in.
You've never been accused of that.
You good?
Hold on. Just check it 1 second, sorry. Put the headphones back.
1, 2, 3. Working?
Okay,
Go
good.
rolling.
Oh, you did that. Okay,
Go
sorry
rolling.
about that.
Anyways, what I had read was Donald Trump is like a doctor with very bad bedside manners. He tells you you're fat, you're overweight, you gotta lose 100 pounds, and you have to quit smoking, and you get mad as hell. You're upset with your doctor because he told you that. But then you go home and you talk to family and you realize, you know what, he's absolutely right. So we got rid of the best doctor we ever had, we got rid of the best president we ever had because he had bad bedside manners, but the country was thriving. And I pray we make it through, for my kids and everybody's kids' sake, I pray we make it through the next 4 years.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate talking to you today.
Thank you,
I
Martha.
really
Thank
do.
you.
Thanks for your time.
Fantastic.
Really good talking to you. Okay.